Hello everyone, my name is Vincent and I'm a Senior Systems Engineer at Nutanix. In this short video, I'll be sharing about installing Red Hat OpenShift on the Nutanix Cloud Platform using Installer Provision Infrastructure, or IPI in short. Red Hat OpenShift 4.11 released support for Installer Provision Infrastructure on the Nutanix Cloud Platform. With the support of IPI, OpenShift can be deployed on the Nutanix Cloud Platform in an automated manner, while providing additional functionality such as the cluster autoscaler, which leverages on Nutanix's full machine API support. This is based on the upstream cluster API project as well as some custom OpenShift resources. However, before we can deploy OpenShift on the Nutanix Cloud Platform using IPI, there are some requirements that has to be fulfilled. For instance, we need to have a SSL certificate that is issued from a trusted CA. This certificate also requires a subject alternate name. Now, what if we have a self-signed certificate that meets these requirements? How do we automatically make OpenShift trust the certificate? We also need to register two DNS entries for the cluster API as well as ingress. Lastly, we need to manipulate the cloud credential operator utility form for the OpenShift installer to request credentials to deploy OpenShift on the Nutanix Cloud Platform. So these are some of the manual steps that needs to be done to deploy OpenShift on Nutanix. What if you could automate all of this? What if you could have OpenShift published in a marketplace where users can automatically self-service and request for an OpenShift cluster? So this is where Nutanix comes into play. So without further ado, let's get started on a demo. So over here, I have logged into Nutanix CAM. In Nutanix CAM, I can just navigate to the marketplace whereby I have a blueprint that is published for OpenShift. I can click on Get and Launch before I just key in a couple of mandatory values such as application name, a subdomain, and as we can see, some of the fields have already been pre-filled, right? Let's key in some IP addresses as well as a subnet to deploy on. Once this is done, we can just go ahead and click on deploy. And within an hour, we should be able to access an OpenShift cluster. So the deployment typically takes about an hour, depending on the speed of the internet as well as the performance of the cluster. So while we're waiting to get this application deployed, I'll just go ahead and show you what the blueprint looks like in the background and how we can automate all the steps. Within the blueprint itself, we can see that there are actually some variables that are set. So things like Prism Central hostname, Prism element username and password. This is actually required for the CSI operator to be deployed. So we can actually set all of this in the background, and the user doesn't really need to enter any of the additional information that they don't need to know. There's also a pull secret over here that we can fill up and keep it as a hidden variable so that your users don't have access to it. Within the steps, we can see that we do a couple of tasks in the background. The first one is to actually register the API VIP as well as the ingress, as well as the installation steps for OpenShift. So it actually downloads the installers, prepares some of the SSH keys, as well as makes Prism Central, the certificate for Prism Central trusted. We prepare the cloud credential operator, get some of the UUIDs as well as IP addresses for Prism element, the subnet UUID, before we actually start to create the OpenShift installer manifest. So over here, we also have the ability to add in the additional trust bundle for the Prism Central to self-signed certificate. After which we start the installer and the CSI, right? So all of these steps are actually done in the background, and this reduces a lot of the manual tasks that is required, as well as prevents any misconfigurations, right? So this is going to take about an hour to deploy. So I'll just come back once the cluster has been successfully deployed. Stay tuned. All right, welcome back. So as we can see, the installation has completed. You can see that NTNX OCP2 is currently in the running status. If you were to expand the additional details of the IPI installer tasks, let's scroll all the way down. Gives us the username and password as well as the URL to access the cluster. Okay, so as we can see, we managed to log into the cluster. Looks good, right? So a simple deployment, all via a marketplace. We can consume an OpenShift cluster from the marketplace, get it deployed, and within an hour, get a cluster ready for use. Right. Thanks for watching.